continue. Okay, thanks for reminding me, Sat, and now I'm recording it again. I hope that this time it works well. At least it looks like it's recording. So, so the intention was, I mean, the idea was on Monday evening to fly back to Germany, and Tuesday preparing everything, and today we have the session, and then we have snow in Istanbul. And I don't know if you have seen the videos on YouTube about snow in Istanbul, but it was actually very funny. There was one Turkish ski enthusiast skiing through the streets of Istanbul, and it looks like from the Austrian Alps or something like that from Canada, but definitely not what you would expect from Istanbul. So to no surprise, the airport was blocked, flights were cancelled, we were stuck in Sri Lanka, and we had to find ways to alternatives. So first you wait, and I'm saying this, I'm explaining this here because that is very much to what we also do in life, you know, like in our business life. So you have a plan, and then reality bites. Something happens that you didn't have on your plate. Now, the first thing that you do is you continue your plan. You just extend your plan. We all know this from MS Gantt charts, like from MS projects. So you just extend the actual plan and say, okay, let's stick to the plan. The same I did, you know, I thought, okay, let's go back to the hotel. Snow will melt, and we are going to fly then tomorrow, maybe tomorrow morning. So had 3 hours of sleep, went into the hotel, went back. The bus in the morning came, took us to the airport, only to stop in the half of this and go back and say, sorry guys, Istanbul's still closed. So we're not going to fly on 12, we are going to fly in the evening. In the evening, certainly the next plane was also canceled because the snow didn't melt so fast. So there was a huge chaos. In the meantime, I changed my direction. I thought, you know what? I had a conversation with my wife who was with me, and we had a conversation like, shall we wait another day at the hotel, not knowing if we are going to make it then tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? And also Turkish Airlines could not tell us if we are going to do this. And we said, no, you know what? We are not going to do that. We are going to change our plan. And here comes the point of our today's topic, like smart engineering. Smart engineering is adapting to what's happening to you, adapting your plan to external impacts that happen to your plan. There's always something that is not as planned. And the way how we tackle this is how we later succeed. So in our case, we said, thank you very much for your offer to stay another, I don't know, 2 days in a 5-star hotel in Colombo, but we are not going to do that. We are going to take another airline, and we are going to fly via Doha because there is no snow in Doha, and we are going to fly back to Germany, and here we are. And I just arrived like 2 hours ago. So the story, and that's why I'm saying this in the beginning here, is when we talk about smart engineering, and we are going to talk about this later with Fatih and Zeki, who are here already. The story is very much about how adaptive we as a person are, but also just one second, and also as an organization, like how adaptive are we to be in real time, you know, to like react to whatever comes and whatever happens to our organization in the moment, and not just saying, sorry guys, we stick to the plan and we have no alternative, and let's wait for what's happening tomorrow, because there is a very different tomorrow sometimes, and then we have not just lost time, but also lost a missed opportunity. We have missed opportunities, and we might continue struggle with this because we lost the train and the train is out of the station, you know. So with that being said, I would like to nevertheless talk a little bit about what we do right now with our current clients, Then we will touch, then we are going to touch into the smart engineering program and what smart engineering actually means and how we see this and how our life changes more and more towards this adaptability of our job, and what kind of, I mean, how many new skills and which skills we might need to learn and add to our portfolio in the future, so that we stay relevant in the way we are. Now, before I do that, I would like to share my screen and start with this. Let me just 1 second. I have first to make Saad co-host, because then let's see if I can do that. How I can do that? I think I can do it here, so that Saad is co-host, and she can care about the people coming in while I am presenting. So before I start, maybe can you give me a quick feedback? Can you see this screen before we start? A little story about UX UI. Fatih, Ziki?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So the reason why I want to give you this story is because it also has to do with smartness. Now, when the first days, when last week I was in Sri Lanka, and the first days I stayed in a very nice hotel direct at the beach, north of Colombo, and it was called Jetwing Blue. But this is not advertising story. This is a story about the bathroom, actually. So I don't know if you can read this here. Can maybe someone can someone speak up and tell me what this is? What is this? Like, can you read this? And can you tell me? Can someone maybe tell me what this might be?
Your shower rinse 11 liter per minute.
Yes, exactly. Unfortunately, it is not in the right way, right? It is written in mirror, you know?
Yep.
Yes, and the story for this was, and now think about this. I mean, these guys have good intentions, you know? They want me to be cautious about my water consumption. Therefore, they give me a very important information, which makes me think like, wow, 11 liters per minute. So if I like shower for 10 minutes, that's actually a lot of water. Should I do this? Or maybe is 8 minutes or 7 minutes or 6 minutes also enough to clean myself and anyway, to enjoy showering? The only problem was that now, Sat, you care about the new people coming in, right?
Yes.
So the only problem here was that this was attached to the glass door of the shower from the outside. Now, I don't know if you have ever walked into a bathroom in a hotel, but the last thing that you do is you standing in front of a glass door of a shower in the morning to read what's on it from outside, and then saying, interesting fact, and then you go inside the shower. No, what you do is actually half blind, you try to find your way into the shower, and then start the water. So I'm doing the same, like in the morning, I'm going into the shower, start showering, and then I stand there using start enjoying the water, and then I looked at this small symbol. By the way, this is just, I mean, this is zoomed in, you know, the original one was like maybe 3 by 3 or 4 by 4 centimeters. And I think like, what is this? Well, how can I not read this? First, I need glasses, you know, and then I cannot read this. And I thought, wow, this is really one perfect example of good intentions done completely wrong. You know, not only is it when we talk about the user experience, when I think when people would talk about the user story, like how do I use informations and how do I put informations in front of the user of this information so that this person can use what he has, this is a total fail here. And also the user interface, like how is this really brought to me, is not as it should be, which means like probably no one cares about this very important information, and no one will ever change his behavior on the shower, because you can if you recognize it, you cannot read it, and then you just don't change your way how you work, how you use the shower. And besides, I tried to use like shower gel and something like that. There were 3 bottles, black bottles, actually very nicely designed. Unfortunately, for me who cannot read this properly, the letters were stating that it is shower gel and shampoo and conditioner were so small. So I was just trying to shower myself and I used completely conditioner. So I had to start from the beginning. So the second point, like if you have an information that you want to provide to someone, then it is so important to do that in a way from the consumer, from the end user. And I see lots and lots also of software companies, good intentions of providing information, plans, dashboards, and boards. I saw a lot also last week, and I saw a lot of ideas. Yet when asking the user, like the receiver of this information, the user of this information, like, do you understand this? Does it have a relevance for you? Very often people said no, you know, and that should not happen. So one of the first things that I would like to remind you here, or like think about this, when you think about your, Sark, we have 3 people in the waiting room. So when you think about your user experience, when you think about your activities that you do, when you think about your plans that you do in your industrial engineering departments, improvements, kaizens, whatsoever, think through your end user. Always remember that these people must understand what you want, what you intend to do, what you intend to transport as an information. That is so important, and it has to do with science, like awareness science, can also be dashboards. If you have a dashboard with like 10 different informations, and it is intended to give information to the blue colors, and the blue colors don't care about this because it has no relation to their life, it is just useless. You spend lots of money for dashboards and for software, and no one is going to use it. Maybe they read it even sometimes, but no one is going to use it. So if I would be in the finance department, I would say total fail of investment. Sorry to say, but there's no intention behind. So UX, UI, you cannot spend enough time on this. It's really important so that people understand this, and then that it has an impact, that it makes a change, a relevant change for your operations and for your organization. And something that we all learn nowadays, why did we even come up with this idea of like smart engineering? Why do we need smart engineering? Well, the reason for this is because we have more and more people coming into our industries with very different aspirations and thoughts. You know, I mean, every once in a while you see organizations popping up breaking into the industry with very different mindsets, you know, like this example here from the car industry. Who would have thought in the early 2000s that today we would have so many new significant and impactful new car manufacturers on this planet? And as you see in the upper right, Tesla, everyone knows the Tesla story. And if you follow them on the stock market, then you know that although they are producing like, I think 0.3% of the global sales, they are like double the size of half of the manufacturers in car business. And there's Build Your Dream, there's NIO, there are lots and lots of new manufacturers in this industry that have an impact on the way how cars are made and on the way how cars are sold. And to quote Jeff Bezos here, he said, "Your margin is my opportunity." You know, like whenever you see the new kids on the block popping up, you should be careful, because you might as well see one of your biggest competitor just in a very small format right now. But these people can grow, and these organizations can grow. And that's also something why we might need from time to time change the way how we think. In industrial engineering, we very traditionally think about our organization. In the last decades, we have learned a lot about lean, like how can we do the same, just smarter and better and more with less losses. What might happen, and that is why we have to think about new tools, and now we are in 2022 here, is that doing the same just better compared to our competitor is maybe not enough. That's a hard landing from Lego here that they had when they were struggling actually with their business model. And the reason was not Mattel, which would be the usual suspects to think about another toy manufacturer or brand. No, the reason was the upcoming Nintendo Game Boy, which was a total different tool, but was stealing the time and the attention from the 10 to 12-year-old boys. And they were the regular consumers of Lego bricks, So they had to learn first that their competitor is not the usual suspect, but is someone who is very different and comes from a different area. So when you think about your engineering capabilities, and when you think about your engineering learnings that you did when you went to school and when you went to university, there might be things that are still relevant for your future, but there are lots of things probably that you have to learn new when thinking about the future of manufacturing in the apparel industry. And there is something legacy versus no rules, when you think about digitalization and digitization of businesses, then you should be clear that there are lots of new rules that come into play that are against legacy. They are against traditional thinking. I mean, you can have like 20 you can have very experienced leaders who are 20 years in the business, very good gut feeling, but they cannot work with so many informations as algorithms can. So might very well be that your traditional way of planning and thinking about your capacities is outsmarted by algorithms that have no history in the apparel industry, but have just mathematical skills that on this scale you cannot have. It's simply impossible to handle so many informations as a human. So that's something that you should always have on your plate when you think about smart engineering. And here's one example that probably maybe you have read about this, but is a very important example of how adaptability is important for your journey and for your planning also. Tesla had the same problem with chips as everyone else had in the apparel, in the automotive sector. The only difference was that the software that is running a Tesla is written by themselves. They had, and I've been to Tesla in 2017, and I saw thousands of people writing software there. Not even before I saw the first robot in the production, I saw loads of people sitting behind desks, behind screens, and writing software. And that was a competitive advantage here, because they were then just tweaking the system, saying, okay, if we cannot have the chips that we intended to have, because the chip market is actually exploding, demand is exploding, so that's why we cannot have the right chips, then why not look for the available chips that are on the market, and then we put them into our planning, and we rewrite the software according to the hardware that we can buy. This is spot on adaptability and smart engineering, that you not just follow the path, but you just think like, what is the alternative? Like, how can I use what I have? How can I smart up my team and my initiatives, my job, so that I can be successful in now and also in the future? And we just had a session before with one client from Southeast Asia, and we were talking about rising complexity. You know, like you have more clients that you do for the same. Again, we talk about the same output, not even about growth. Talking about the same output, rising complexity, having more clients, having smaller order sizes, shorter lead times, struggling with raw materials. And then you want to do what? You cannot run faster, and you can also not hire more people doing the same, because the more administration you hire, the more your finance colleagues will poke you and say, listen, where's my EBIT? Where's my return here? The overhead is actually exploding against the top line and the output of operations. So in other words, we cannot just do more of the same. We have to somehow do things differently, and we have to think differently, not just in the sales department and in the executive department, also in industrial engineering, spot on where the planning happens and the day-to-day activities happen. Now, just like 2 minutes here about the bachelor. You know that I frequently give an update about our current participants of this bachelor course, and I see a lot of digital literacy coming up in these organizations. They think much different than they did when starting the course, and that gives them the right, like the mental capacity to find the right software, the right hardware, the right tech for their endeavor. Not to think like, where can I buy tech and then becoming the next SpaceX. No apparel manufacturer has to become the next SpaceX or Apple. You have to become a better version of yourself. And the course participants that we have here are doing this exceptionally well. We have lots of additional activities coming here, and the impact on efficiency on the shop floor, and also efficiency increases in the white collar structure like administration overhead, is significant. So it's a good thing to think about your digital literacy. And in case there are some people interested in that, you can just at any time come back to me, talk to me or to someone of my team later on, and then we can see how this might have an impact on your organization as well. The thing how we do this, we assess who you are, and then we define who you want to become. And that is not the typical lean thing, like, okay, we are here, we want to improve our efficiency by 5%, we want to increase our sales by 20%, and here we go, and how we identify the losses. Because the digital transformation means that you have to do a lot of things quite different than you did them in the past. So it's not this typical continuous improvement story. It's really like creating a new muscle in your organization that you want to build, and that you want to work with, and make the best out of this. Just recently, this month, the iPhone turned 15. You know, 15 years ago, the iPhone was introduced. And who would have thought such an impactful change out of a device? And, you know, if some people say this is one of the 10 most important inventions of mankind, you know, and it changed the world, some for the better, some for the worse, but it changed the world completely. Which means, like, when we think about who we want to become in the next years, then we should always think about where society is going, where the markets are going, where our organization has to go accordingly, so that we stay relevant in the changed future that we can see already. And that is what we do also here in this course. We work very much with this principle of the digital twin. Everyone can read about the digital twin in Wikipedia, about the shadow, about the trigger, about how this in theory works, but how this in practice works, that is not so easy. And using the digital expression of your physical organization and then making use of this, capture the value of this, is what we identify here, and how we want to use this. We do workshops, of course. We work in very interactive sessions. Some people do sessions like this. We work week by week. It's a very iterative and very hands-on let's say, really down to earth process. In one workshop last week, someone said he speaks our language. And for me, this was a compliment, because sometimes people say, you know, these consultants, they always know it better. They always tell me what to do, and they have never done it. In our case, I can truly say we are not selling you a story. We are trying to improve organizations according to our experience that we did ourselves. I am 38 years in the industry, so I know what I'm talking about. And we make people invest in the right technology, and that has an impact on the overhead structure, but also on the efficiency structure and the organizational structure in operations. You know, so in other words, we have learned that strategy comes first. You need to have a plan. You need a digital plan to actually work with your digital transformation, and you have to learn new skills. You cannot just do more of the same. And that is why one of the learnings we had with our clients was that we have to set up somehow a systematic approach, like an education approach, about something that you not learn on universities, that you not learn typically in your day-to-day job. And that is how we call this smart engineering. And we have a volume 1, and you can guess that we are going to have a volume 2 as well. So with that being said, I would like to switch to the live dialogue situation now, and I would like to invite Zeki and Fatih to maybe explain in like 2-3 words what this smart engineering actually means, because we have lots of engineers here, experts for like decades sometimes. So what's the difference between engineering and smart engineering? Who wants to start first?
Thank you, Yosh. I can start, if you may, Fatih. Well, for that issue, actually, before switching this smart concept, maybe we should start with this engineering philosophy. By the way, can I share my screen?
Certainly you can.
You can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, so actually, in order to answer that, what does smart means and what does engineering means, we need to ask these 2 questions, we believe. The first one, how to increase your multidisciplinary engineers in your organization. It doesn't matter, by the way, having an engineering background or not, because in our industry, we see that there are many engineers creates really significant value, but without having a kind of engineering background. So it doesn't mean that in order to become a smart engineer, or in order to become a good engineer, you have to have a kind of engineering background. It is not like that, especially in our industry, in apparel industry, it is not like that. And secondly, how to design and upgrade them with new trends, because as we need to upgrade our systems with some algorithms, with some softwares, that is why we need to upgrade our employees, our engineers as well. We will be talking like many softwares, simulation softwares, 3D softwares, sketches, and etc. So with the current engineering structures, yes, we can save today and maybe tomorrow, but in order to get prepared for future, we need to upgrade our current engineering structures in order to become smart engineers. So for that question, for your smart, what is the difference for being smart? Actually, we divided this program, we created it with respect to some main verses. Of course, the first one is theory versus the practice. I will try to explain some terminologies, and at the end, we will combine it with the smart concepts. So it is really important that to realize the theory and the practice issue. just consider that you Google line balancing, for instance. It is a really common tool in our industry, and every engineer has to kind of use it, this line balancing structure. And when you Google it, you can find thousands of articles, different techniques, Yamazumi techniques, assembly lines, montage assembly techniques. There are many, many practices and theories that you can find. But the question is that, are you able to use it in your daily life as being an engineer? Yes, you can have many, many inputs. You can have this background from universities, or you can have this background from your personal academical efforts. But the question should be, can you use it in your daily lives or not? I can show you some examples that we get really from these plans. From the left side, you see some kind of line balancings that we got from some of the customers by changing the values, of course. Some of them is using kind of assembly lines. Some of them is using this kind of combination with Yamazumi and some other methodologies, or some others using some other methods. But the question is that how you can make it in a proper way that serves your future digital tools that you can see from the right side. The picture that you see on the right side is a kind of example that we already developed, and we also developed this smart engineering program by considering these feature issues. So it is not like turning all these Yamazumi line balance things into your digital versions. It is not like digitalization or digitization. What we should do in order to become that smart engineering concept, in order to have that, first, we should change the way of our business, the way of our applications. Then we can continue in order to get digitized for the tools. When you have that structure, an integrated structure, digitalization is not that complex, actually. It is not so easy. The difficult part, having that structure in a smart way, creating your basis, I mean. This is also valid, by the way, for instance, value stream maps. In order to draw some value streams, I always say that this is a great lean tool, but if you spend like hours in order to apply one VSM, just don't do that. It doesn't mean anything, because when you are trying to find your problem, the problem disappears.
It's gone.
Yes. So what are you looking for?
Yeah, but I mean, we had, just to add here, we had conversations with former clients who said they do this like 3-4 times a year because it is so time consuming that they get crazy with it. And I absolutely agree. I mean, if you have something like a system, and we know this also from budget stories, we know this from when we think about investment strategies and something like that. If you can spend unbelievable amount of hours to plan something that is gone with the wind 1 month later. And I had this personally when being managing director in Izmir, we spend, I mean, there were lots and lots of people spending hours and hours and hours to put a budget planning together, and then developing it, putting it, agreeing to it, presenting it to the board in September, let's say. In October, late October, you would get the approval, because then all the other managing directors would have given also their budgets. So then the central controlling would say, okay, fine. And in November, you would start making the corrections. So which means, like, I have never had a budget. I've never seen a budget that made it longer than 3 months, you know, and then you start over again. And basically, this is also what you're saying here, right? Like, when I spend more time in my value stream map, then the potential like learning or the improving is, then I can just stop doing it.
Because the aim of this tool to find your bottleneck as fast as you can. So the correct way. In order to apply it, you should be agile, and you should know the correct tools in order to use it in your shop floor. That is actually what we are offering in this program. How to create a kind of structure that will talk between each other, that will help you to become an agile engineer. We can increase these examples with like hundreds of examples. But this is the aim from this theory and practice issue. The second one for that, for the program, the aim of the program, the difference between personalization and standardization. This is really important as any other topics, because in most of the companies, we see that actually every engineer or every specialist have their own way to solve the problems. Yes, they can get some progress, they can solve it, but in their own ways, with their own experiences. I can give you just one example. For instance, standard method calculation. If we ask here, even here, how do you calculate your SMV in your plants? I'm pretty sure that we will get tens of different answers, and all of them can be true. All of them can be correct, yes. But what is the optimum way? What is the correct way that all the engineers should apply in the line, in your organization? So this is just one small example, and this is a really critical example, because this is the start point of your all your processes. This is how you calculate your pricing, how you calculate your profits, efficiencies, all of them. But when we asked it, how do you do that? The answer is this engineer calculating it, and he is doing it or she is doing it with her own way, with his own way.
Okay, and that's an interesting point here, because that's also what we always claim when we explain the bachelor course. We always tell them, listen, we are creating a kind of digital literacy so that then you can start making better digital and digitization decisions and investment plans. Why do you think is this here? Is this not clear for in the syllabus of the curriculum of universities, or is it like every company is making his own? They make their own fancy calculations. What's the reason? Why do we have so many different like perceptions on the same term as a standard minute value?
Actually, there is no one answer for that question. There are a couple of answers. For instance, for some plants, this process is being handled with some specific person, and after some years, he or she is creating his or her own way of calculating this methodology. And when you go when you go back and see that, you see that he or she created her own way of this calculation. We don't know if she got it from the university or from some other literatures. No one knows that. We asked that, what if she or he left from the company, what you will do? I don't know. The answer is we don't know that. We should find a way. Yeah.
Okay.
This is
so
one.
It's basically like would you say it's like an interpretation of something that should be clear? Like I cannot make a personal interpretation of 1 kilometer or like 1 kilogram. 1 kilogram is 1 kilogram. And what you say here is basically like people talk about the same, but actually they don't mean the same.
Yes. And maybe 1 kilogram is not 1 kilogram. That's scenario.
Yes, obviously not.
Exactly. So this is just small example why I put this in here. It is because even it is so important and crucial, this is a really huge bottleneck in all the organizations. We really barely see that's the correct way of calculating and having this formula, for instance. We don't get these results really not in often way.
Okay. Got it. And therefore we have put it into the program.
Yes,
so that
and
we create clarity here.
then we put it with a really huge content. That's why.
Yeah. So it means like you're not teaching, but you make lots of exercises so that people get it by understanding it, not just hearing it.
Exactly. That's why we always say that it is not theory, it is practice. Because
really.
this comes from the experience. Yes, you can, when you Google how to make SME calculation, you can get the result. The Wikipedia or all the websites can say that, but there are many inputs in that. For instance, what should be your personal fatigue allowances in your organization?
Yeah.
How to calculate your machine allowances, or how to work with bundles, how to work with these bundle allowances. These are the inputs that you should have in a proper way. And that is what we put all of them in a way.
Got it.
Another one, the bottleneck versus dedicated systems versus integrated systems. Because, you know, there are many engineering processes, line balancings, layout optimizations, machine managements, so on, we can count them. And you can have each and every system in a proper way. But the question is, are they talking between each other? Or they are just separated systems? Because each and every process actually the input of the other one. For instance, machine management is input of line balancing. Competency management is input of line balancing. SME, just we talked, is a really big input almost to all your processes in the system. But we generally see that organizations have these systems, even not in a standard way, but in a closed versions. That means that it is not integrated 100%. So in order to become smart, the aim in this versus, first, you should create integrated systems that talk between each other. So you can have some smart line balancing process, you can have some SME process, but if they are running without any integration, without any connection between each other, that means that actually nothing.
Yeah, very true. You have the typical silo mentality that you find a lot in corporates also, that one part knows a lot of stuff and the others are in need of this. Unfortunately, they have no access.
Yes. In order to become smart, in order to go that way, you should first make your systems integrated. And that is a really big and crucial input also for digitalization and digitization projects. Without having integrated systems, you can become some software dumps, IT dumps.
Yeah. So if I would be the COO, I would just ask, dear Zeki, where is this one software serves all problems company? Is there any, or is there none? What would you say? Is there like, okay, I buy this software and then everything is green, the garden is green, or is this like a myth?
The first, it is not myth. You can find a kind of company, or even you can develop actually the software by yourself. But you should have a really detailed and studied vision in order to do that. You cannot just say that, yes, I want these integrated systems. I will buy that and implement it in my plant. It's really will not work like that. Yes, we are also offering some MES systems that are integrated between each other. You know, the STM solutions, smart line balancings, all of them. But you cannot just buy it and implement it in your organization just like this. You need to create that vision, as we always say in these bachelor programs. You need to create the correct way of transformation, then you can apply that.
Okay. So if someone would come to me saying, okay, listen, I have this software, I just saw this software at a fair and we just install it in 48 hours and then everything is fine and shiny. Not so much.
Yes, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because
it's just life, you know. his life. Okay.
Because apparel industry is a kind of industry that has a huge labor force. It is not
Yes.
it's not like automotive industry, automated
No.
industry. So that means that that is why actually this smart engineering concept is also so important. Because if we have great engineers, if you have these smart engineers, then you can implement those kind of softwares into your system.
Yeah.
You can use it.
Understood. Yeah, cool.
So this is the importance of these dedicated and integration issues. The next step that I will touch a little bit, creating specialists versus generalists. This is also a really big bottleneck, and we always face with this issue, especially during our Create Your Job studies. There are some dedicated engineers, in organizations, and for instance, some of them make just line balancing, and the other one calculating SMVs. We are asking that, and he says that I've been making this process for 10 years. But do you know how to make, for instance, the other one? The answer is no. Yes, he or she is a great specialist, but if the engineers don't know the effects of their processes for the other processes, for the other modules, that means that you cannot get the efficiency from that process with 100%. So the aim is not creating specialists, but creating generalists. That means that having your engineers that knows many processes. And how we can do that? The key point in here, with of course simplification. If you create really complex processes, then it will be really difficult to make it understandable for all the engineers. But if you simplify your processes, if you ace it with the combination of some digital tools, like some other integrations, by standardizing it, like we mentioned in here, then you can create your generalists in your engineering department. So
I was just wondering, like, exactly, just 1 second here. I was like, everyone is so freaking out about specialists, like say, we need this specialist about this, we need specialists about that. And now you're saying, no, wait a minute, we need generalists. So do we need, like, is this generalist a kind of multi-skill specialist? And how much of this would you say is general and how much is special? So because my reason is, my question is here, because sometimes people say, if we have only generalists, they know everything about nothing, and if we have only specialists, then they know only bits and pieces and are disconnected. So if you would like balance this, or say the optimal engineer of the future, to what extent should he still be a specialist, and how much generalist does he have to become?
Actually, in the past, the most popular answer was having great specialists, having one specialist for one process in the organization, so that they can handle the processes in a great way. But in this world, currently, we are living in an agile world, actually. So the things are changing really fast. And to be honest, the turnover rate of apparel industry is not so low.
No, it's actually quite high.
That means that if we have great specialists, that turns us actually the previous steps, this personalization issue. That means that you are creating systems depending on that specialist. So you shouldn't have specialists, but you should have generalists that can handle each and every process without depending anyone.
Okay, and that has to do probably with technology, right? So exactly. That you have enough support from the technology side so that you can actually do that quite fast. Because I mean, you cannot be an expert in everything, but you can be an expert in something and then have a generalized idea about how the rest works.
Exactly. So what we did, for instance, in our Create Your Job story, we simplified the tasks so that they can be handled not only with the engineers. for instance, with some other even operator level or their supervisors and etc. So this should be the way creating the generalists.
I understand.
So
By the way, I mean, we have like 39 people in the room here after like 1 hour. If you have some questions, you know, then you can of course ask them. Just put them in. Either you speak up or you put them into the chat, and then we can talk about this either today or next session. No matter. If you have some concerns or if you want to object here, say sorry guys, but my life is totally different. That would be totally fine, you know, because life is different in different countries and organizations. So if someone wants to say something, that's fine. Just speak up. Please, Ziggy.
Yeah, so the point that we try to mention in here, not make your specialists know every processes. Just make your processes can be understandable by everyone. So turn your specialists to generalists. This should be the point.
I understand.
So as a result, with respect to these issues, with the combination of all the inputs, of course, analog versus digital. So as we just talked, you cannot turn all the processes from analog to digital by purchasing some softwares. So if you want to get digitized, first, you should work on your processes. You should assess your processes, reshape them before getting digitized. Otherwise, the only thing that you can do, you can, for instance, make some digital line balancing, but with the same methodology that you apply today. With your, for instance, Yamuzumi application. You can buy some line balance application and you can do that over there. But what is the improvement on that process? The question should be this one. So we created this smart engineering program with considering all these issues actually. So what we say that you will have your own structures that will feed your potential future software implementations. Because if you would like to get a kind of software, first you should have like integrated systems. You should have like standardized systems that can be understandable for everyone in the organization, from the operator to top manager.
So we are not talking about Excel attachments to emails, right?
Exactly.
This is not what you mean.
Exactly. So what we are doing in here, creating the standardization, but by considering your future implementations of digitalization or digitization projects. So you can consider it in a kind of sequence so that the analog versus digital should stay at the last bottom, going digitized. The first thing that you need to do in order to become that smart engineer or smart factory, what you should do, you should reassess all your processes, all your tasks, works doing daily, and then change it that will feed your future implementations. This is the key point actually in here.
Cool. By the way, before, I mean, we have like 1 hour and we are going to, of course, we are not shutting down now, but because it's actually, I think it's a very important topic, and someone just sent me, and says quite an informative session. Thank you very much. That is what we want to do here. Industry today is struggling to even have authentic data that they can trust. Understood the need. That's actually something that is really important here, and that's what we want to also demonstrate here, what we show. The reason why we set up this program called Smart Engineering that you can actually run, it's like a 10 weeks program, has intense learning sessions and has intense practice sessions also, like what Zeki said before, is not about theory, is about practice. So putting your data into these examples and then seeing how this has an impact, these new tools have an impact on your individual organization is key here, because otherwise, I mean, you can watch hundreds of hours YouTube videos about what others do. It doesn't make you any more clever and any more smart. That is something I can tell you by experience. I watched a lot of stuff about DIY. I watch a lot of I'm very much in gardening, and I saw a lot of videos about gardening, and doesn't make me a gardener. I try, and then when I go into the garden and start digging, I see that life is quite different. So so that's what we understood, is like we need to practice with our own life the new theories until we understand them, and as humans we need 5 to 7 repetitions to understand them. There was another comment here. If any software has all the modules required in garment manufacturing, is it good for any company? That's actually a very interesting question. Is it good to put all the eggs into one basket? What would you say, Fatih and Zeki? Is it good to say, okay, I'm going to buy one software and it's going to give me all the solutions I need? Is this good to have such a close relationship?
Maybe it's a sample like specialist and generalist,
Yeah.
because especially in apparel industry, there are lots of different professions needed in the software side, like ERP systems, MRP systems, production planning systems, PLM systems, MES systems, etc. And I never saw a software which solves all the problem and which serves some software for all these issues. But yeah, at least you need an ERP system and you need a MES system in your organization. But if you have a software which covers all these issues, I could have some doubts about the specialist side of the software.
The one size fits all topic is a dream, huh? And I'm also, honestly, I would to answer that question also. I mean, we had in the Izmir journey of Hugo Boss, we had a lot of different software solutions in place. And the reason for this was, like, we had this idea of running, like using technology like my phone, And by the way, you can look into the Amazon Web Services and Industrial Cloud from Volkswagen. They have a very similar idea, which is an app logic. So which means, like, I need an operating system that is underlying, that is connecting everything. And then I have lots and lots of different cases and companies. Some companies need like 10 different software solutions, others 5. So when buying this kind of Microsoft Office package that gives me 1,000 different activities and functions, and I will hardly use 500 of them, maybe even just 100, then I'm over engineering myself, right? So that's a point here. I think that also I would hardly think about, do you really want to put all the eggs into one basket? I wouldn't, honestly speaking. I wouldn't. I would probably look really deeply into my digital needs of my business and then think about what of this do I find actually on the market. And clearly nowadays you find a lot. 6 years ago, 7 years ago, when we started this journey for Hugo Boss, there was not much on the market. So there were lots of software that we had to write in-house. There was another comment here, which was the second level of the industry has the data but don't know what to do with it. It is mostly used as front to convince customers that they are organized. I guess this has very much to do with the transparency of information. And this is something I truly can say that we also see with lots of our clients that we work with, and companies, organizations, no matter the country, that there is already a lot of information available. There are bits and pieces missing, yes, true, and they can be attached to this overall systematic, but the smartness of using this information and thinking about information as a value, as an asset, as something that you can put euros and dollars on it, is not very much developed. This kind of using information to actually create a case that you can see in your P&L is not very well developed. Very often people think about quality is caring about quality, finance about finance, engineers about engineers, not so much HR about HR, not so much really connected to each other. Then there was one question here: what are the line balancing softwares available in the market now? That obviously goes to Fatih and Zeki. These are the guys who should understand this and answer this.
Before the answer of this question, I have another comment for the previous question. Yes, there is no software which covers all the issues, but the key point is your potential different softwares must be integrated, not working alone. They need to integrate ERP, MES, production planning. They need to be integrated to each other, because otherwise then you will probably have some software silos in some points, which doesn't help your future digitalization issue. Yes, there are some line balancing softwares. One of the software we know is our software from Nexera Solutions.
Certainly.
We know it very well.
Which, by the way, is also one of the best on the market. No question about that.
Yeah, we developed it with the experience of Hugo Boss story. So it's an integrated solution which runs with machine, skill management, employee, ERP system, and creates a line balancing with some additional proposals to the production engineer with the previous data, actualized data from the production side.
Mm-hmm. So there are software solutions on the market right now. In other words, there is software that you can buy and that you can implement. It's just that, I mean, I would say, as a former managing director, if someone would come to me and make this kind of pitch saying, okay, buy this and buy that, and then like we can make the installation in 48 hours and you will see like the ROI is 6 weeks. Wow, I would hardly doubt this, because organizations, I mean, you can buy a lot of stuff. I go to an Apple store, I buy my phone and off I go. But I mean, changing people and changing behavior, changing the way how organizations work with information and such is not like in 48 hours done. So these kind of pitches, if you read them, if you get them, you should be maybe careful about that. So there are a couple of comments here. I agree on the generalist point, but the concern is continuous training by organizations, which is missing as no measurement after training. Very true, very good comment here. We have put trainings always in, how can I say, we always connected trainings to efficiency and output. No matter if we would talk about operators, or we would talk about line managers or industrial engineers or whatsoever. What you cannot measure, you not train. Definitely. If you have, like when you talk about this generalist topic, and this gives you agility because you have an employee who can do like 3, 4, 5 jobs instead of 1. This is something you can measure. You can actually, you can measure the retention rate from HR, like how fast can they replace positions when you have internal trained people and someone is leaving, and you can just swap these people and you just switch them into other position and they just continue moving. You can measure this. This is money. HR, finding people, training them on the job, making them perform in the expected outcome is something that you can put dollars and euros at, and that's something that you can measure. So I would never just train people generally like raining knowledge on people. That I would never do. I would always put a number behind so that you can justify this. Then there was the main issue is that the person who is handling the manufacturing plant has no clue or intention to participate. I feel the change has to be at the top first and the rest becomes easier. What's your opinion? Well, my opinion is twofold. One is you should never forget how much you can manage and motivate and steer your boss. You know, and I have started I worked for 25 years at Hugo Boss, and I started as a team leader, and the last job that I did was being a managing director in Izmir. I started with a team of 5 people. At the end, I had like more than 4,000. So just to tell you that you manage your people downwards and you manage your people upwards. So it is absolutely true that if you have no competence and you have no power, that no change will ever happen. But don't underestimate the power that you have to influence your boss. For example, I just tell you, if you guys here, we have like 30 people left still after like 1 hour 15. If you go to your boss tomorrow and say, listen, we have to change the way how our engineers work and how they think, and we have to train them. Why don't we, I just found this course, or I just found this initiative, I just found this software. Why don't we have an investigation here? That changes the perception of your people. And maybe in the first place, your boss will say, don't bother me with this stuff. This is not, I don't have the time because I have other important things to do. Yeah, might be. But if you talk about this like two times, 3 times, that makes a change, you know, and that makes people think. And then they start investigating into it, and that changes. So don't underestimate the power that you have as a natural leader managing upwards. It's a very important part of your influence. Then we have, like, for most apparel manufacturers, the biggest challenge could be from where to start, which department, which set of process to start from. What kind of process template would you suggest for a company to assess its existing level of maturity before initiating digitalization process? I mean, I could easily say, go and join into our bachelor course, because we will spend 1 full month with you intensely to make the assessment and where to start, what to do, where you are, where you're good at in terms of IT, in terms of organization, in terms of processes, in terms of your bonus systems, in terms, oh my gosh, we have like 130 questions that we ask and get in touch with. So the thing is, whatever you do, and we can later talk about this for sure, but whatever you do, you need a transparent assessment about your organization. You might very well find out that you had assumptions about your organization that are not true, and you were maybe comfortable with your organizations. And then if you dive deeper, you understand, wow, I didn't expect that. We are working with one company right now. They were very much in lean. They were very proud about what they do. We made the digital assessment with them, and they were very disappointed about the outcome. And the reason was because they just didn't understand this. You know, they were not expecting this, because they were so proud about other skills that they didn't think about this. This is like thinking about, you are a very good cook, but that doesn't make you a good bartender. You know, it's still something has to do with food and drinks. But if you are good at one thing, doesn't make you good at something else. So this honest assessment and this honest view inside into your organization, and comparing this against the outer clock, the outer speed of an organization, is a very important first point. And I can only invite you, if you want, then yes, we can talk about this in another session. But this is actually that you have to honesty, transparency, and comparing the inner clock with the outer clock is a very important point here. Can we achieve a lighthouse factory in garment manufacturing? I guess so. And to be clear, in Izmir, we had the World Economic Forum and McKinsey visiting us for like a couple of days. And we were very close to become the first lighthouse factory in the apparel industry. And there were very little general aspects that were missing. Otherwise, we would have become one. So yes, absolutely, you can do that. A lighthouse factory is a good thing, because it demonstrates the strength of using the new tools and understanding how this has an impact on a rather traditional industry like the apparel industry. We still do a lot of things very old-fashioned. And it would be good if you're a big corporate organization, like an organization with many plants, then for sure it's a good thing to start with one plant, building this lighthouse in your organization so that others can start copying this. And the deployment factor is what your CFO will want to see and will be happy about. Is the complete MES system enough for garment manufacturing, which can be integrated with your current ERP system? By MES, I'm saying that it contains TNA2. What is this, Fatih and Ziki?
TNA2.
TNA.
No, not an idea.
I also don't know. Time and action. Okay. Is the complete MES system enough for garment manufacturing, which can be integrated with your ERP system? By MES, I'm saying that it contains time and action. Time and action is a legacy tool, they say. No. People are just objecting against each other. So I don't know. Fatih, Zeki, you wanna say something?
Yeah, MES system. Just one thing additional. If your MES system covers your main resources in digital twin, you remember the photo. We have got machine, people, process. So if your MES system, if the MES system covers the people management, operators, employees, the machine processes, your operations, model flows, skills, line balancings, yes, it can be enough. But there are always a question mark, you know, in the apparel side. What about the production planning side? Because in some ERP systems, there is a very light scheduling systems. Maybe we can call production planning. So ERP product MES system, and if the production planning is not covered by ERP system, additionally, you need a production planning software.
Okay, cool. Then there was one question about, can you repeat the name of the line balancing software? And I just said, okay, the MES system. And the software that we talk about here and that you might get in touch with these gentlemen here is called Nexera Solutions. And you find the gentlemen on LinkedIn and can get in touch with them directly if you wish. And again, I mean, there is no one-size-fits-all system, and there's a good reason for this, because not every company is the same. We work with organizations that have sometimes 100 employees, and I just came back from Sri Lanka and worked with an organization that has 115,000 employees. So you bet that their systems and their setup and their organizational setup and their life is totally different, although we can consider both of them being manufacturers. You know, both of them produce goods in the apparel industry, but their life is totally different. So I would always, and coming back to the bachelor course that we do with them and thinking about this assessment first, I would always start with understanding who you are, and then trying to understand who you want to become. And then the difference is what you have to do and take this into an action plan. And part of this will be this smart engineering, upsmarting your engineers, you know, smarting up their knowledge and making them do things differently. And the second part will be doing investments differently and having different investments in your making the right investments in the right technology for your particular case. Otherwise, you end up in what Fatih and Dicky always say, like, don't become an IT dump, you know, like don't buy into this, just buying software will save your life. No, it's not the case. If I buy a piano, that doesn't make me a piano player. It's just a piano. It's, for me, is a piece of wood, you know, and metal. Okay, then there was like, can you help me develop a robotic arm for stickering numbering activities on cut components, as it is a repetitive task I searched but could not get, while it should be the easiest one. That is actually not so easy. I tell you, we did a lot of this in Izmir, and we had a lot of robotic arms, and I just recently saw another in Sri Lanka. I saw another version which was also very interesting, like this stapling and stapling, sometimes it's printing, sometimes it's stapling, sometimes they attach a number with thread, with needle and thread. So it's not such an easy thing, but I totally agree. It's a deadly boring operation, and it is something that deserves to be automized. Now, there are some cutter companies who have put this automatic metering and putting this label, this labeling system on the cutter head. So which means like the cutter is cutting and the Meto label is attached immediately. But that only works if you have a single piece flow, like single cutting, or you have a bundle Meto. If you go for single Metos, like layer by layer, then it doesn't work, you know, because you have like you're cutting, say, 10 or 15 or 20 layers of fabric, and it will only label on the top, you know. So there are organizations who work with this. They have a bundle, like, okay, I have 50 pieces and I have just one label, one Meto. There you find these cutters who can do the job. And there are other companies who are really doing piece by piece. And there are manual systems to be developed, maybe also available on the market. But we have ideas of that, of course, because we developed some of them. We call it Autometo, from automation, Autometo, in Izmir. And we have ideas. You may just get in touch with us, and then we have a conversation on that, how to do that. Okay, so we made a huge span, starting from becoming a smart engineer, talking about wrongly attached shower symbols, and like after 1.5 hours, we have to come to an end. And if again, I mean, thank you very much for your participation, for being here, having also raising interesting questions that we tried to answer at best. We will meet certainly in a month from now, and we are going to talk about industry topics. Again, we will talk about certainly the efforts and the advantages and the learnings of our clients that we right now have. And if you are interested to become a smart engineer, like becoming this smart engineer and doing something better for your organization, then please get in touch with us. It's a course that you can do online in your time zone, in your time frame, in the weekend, in the evening, in the morning, during the daytime, whatever. It's a very personalized journey that you can embark on. And if you are interested in that, then just get in touch with us and we will give you the details on that. Some people consider it to be, just to be clear, some people consider it to be expensive. I don't buy that. Why? Because when you do this smartly, if you smart up your organization, then this course pays back in probably in a month, maybe even less, doing some things better than before. And training is something that has a significant payback and that you need to always calculate. You cannot just have training because they are nice. And we are not setting up trainings here that are nice. We are setting up trainings that make people help become a better version of themselves. So with that being said, smart up your business, smart up your life, and see you in 1 month. Thank you very much to our this time's participants, Fatih and Zeki, and see you next month. Take care.
Take care.
You. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.